Welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining us. I've got Vishal Agarwal on the show with us today. He's the chairman and CEO of Full Circle Africa. And we're going to talk about the 6 common mistakes of unsuccessful leaders. But before we get into that, Vishal, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Michael. What a delight.
Glad you're here. Give us some background on what Full Circle Africa is, and then I want to dive into your book because they've got a lot of really hot points that I think are going to be necessary to bring out to the audience.
Sure. So Full Circle is a bespoke investment firm. We do venture capital, industrial finance, and leverage buyouts across the African continent. And it's a diversified investment holding business.
Wonderful. All right. The cardinal rule of management, not to get ahead or get into head-to-head conflicts. Talk to me about that.
Well, as you get more and more senior in your career, often people get so caught up by their titles and corner offices and their resume that they lead with that. So they get into the habit of saying, do it my way. Do it because. Do it because I'm instructing you. And that I am the boss behavior is not contemporary leadership anymore. That might have worked in my grandfather's time, and there's a reason why it worked in his time. The reason why it worked in my grandfather's time is because the gap of talent between a mid-40s senior leader in my grandfather's time and in my time was very large. The number of people with a college degree in his demographic around him would not be 10%. Today, we do not know 10% people around us in our corporate lives that do not have a college degree. The number of Oxbridge and Harvard and Ivy Leaguers around us that are better educated than us, that are smarter than us, that are quicker than us is far greater than ever has been. So our leadership style must adapt to that, let alone the whole millennium conversation in terms of generational issues. We just need to adapt to our teams and the quality of the talent that we have in a manner that is more befitting with it, as opposed to the example of my grandfather's time.
Yes, I think that resonates with a lot of people right now. Why are angry, aggressive executives not as effective in the long run? I mean, common sense tells me one thing, but I'd like to hear your explanation for this.
Well, look, first of all, I believe that those that talk badly to staff, that shout across the floor, even you observe them in meetings. So you're in a meeting, you're condescending, you're shouting at someone, you're tearing down their presentation very publicly, 20 people. All of that kind of behavior you also see in restaurants. You go out for a nice meal with people, you behave badly, you see people behaving badly with service staff. That sort of behavior, I believe, is on the path of career suicide, right? Because people are watching you, people want inspiration, they want contemporary leadership. Contemporary leadership today, again, is servant leadership. Contemporary leadership is, I am there for you. Right? As opposed to trying to be a bulldozer, as I say in my book. A bulldozer is no different than a high school bully. So if you think about, as parents, how upset we might get with children getting bullied at school, well, it should be no different at work, right? So those that are bullying, are loud, are aggressive. Loud is fine, but in an aggressive, loud manner, that sort of behavior is not contemporary anymore, because leaders, the only job that leaders have today is one of serving their teams, their customers, their suppliers, their ecosystem.
Right. I agree with that 100%. It's almost like the Middle Ages. If the king didn't lead his army into battle, they weren't going.
That's right. That's right. And that's not true anymore. That's not true anymore because our teams are way ahead of us. Right.
6 common mistakes of unsuccessful leaders.
So they play the boss card, right? So a leader that plays the boss card, leads by resume, is one. A leader that says, do it my way, is another good one that to avoid. It should be our way. What can I do for you? A leader that talks out of both sides of their mouth, right? Has one way for you and another way for them, right? A leader that gets into head-to-head conflicts is another one. We just talked about that and we unpacked that. A leader that does not serve is another good one, right? So those are some common mistakes that leaders make. Particularly, I see a lot of senior leaders that get into a organization through a lateral hire or through a promotion or through a new job, and they often make this kind of mistakes, right? They don't earn trust, they don't assimilate, they don't listen. Right, and they're very eager to put points on the board. We all need success. We all need to drive outcomes. But if we do it without our teams and we do it with ourselves in front of others, today that is nakedly telling, and is a sure shot for failure.
Good, well said. Now, 2 types of leaders in your book, a lion and a goat. Give us this.
Let me tell you a story. So I live out in Kenya, and if you have visitors from around the world that come out to Kenya and go out on safari, whether it's Kenya or any other part of the African region, if you go out to safari and do not come back home with a photograph of a lion, with a picture of a lion, with a sighting of a lion, how terrible is it for you? You come back home and you say, I've seen all this great game, but I haven't seen a lion, right? What is this? Why is this lion so special? A lion is regal. A lion is confident. While the lion is the king of the jungle, the lion is also this enormously regal, carrying themselves in a manner that you admire type of animal, right? If you look at a goat on the other hand, the only thing I can think of when I think about a goat, who tend to be restless, indecisive, yip-yap, run around helter-skelter, sound, is I think of them as what they could be on my dinner table. A nice rice dish that I talk about in my book as a biryani or a goat stew. That's all I think a goat is good for. And forgive me, the vegans and the vegetarians, right? But that's the contrast. And if you actually think about, the DNA of that lion. So if you ever go and YouTube a lion and see a lion in a tight spot, like being tranquilized for veterinarian reasons, you will see a lion rise, a real rise in the head, even though they're faced by this tranquilizer gun. In contrast, if you go and YouTube a goat being slaughtered, I promise you'll see the head going down. Now, what would you like to be, a lion or a goat in the workplace? Because I really believe there's only 2 kinds.
Well, I certainly don't like the part of being a prey to anything. Now, let's talk about the best way to handle conflicts with colleagues and subordinates.
So look, conflict is something that is kind of natural, and one would find misalignments, misunderstandings, and behavioral reasons to be in conflicts. But if we build relationships, if we give first from a trust and relationship standpoint, and have regular rhythms with our colleagues, even those that we might not be friends with, even those that we might not find a lot of commonality in, but if we have connection with them, if we have regular rhythms with them, if we set up regular touch points with them, then I believe the reason for conflict is minimized. So let me give you an example. So you're an executive in a role, you have a stakeholder community around you. If you think about that stakeholder community and you deliberately have regular touch points with that community, then when you're in a room, although you might have misalignments from personality standpoint, or you might not be, the best of friends, but to have misalignments on issues that you've actually been talking about outside that conference room or that meeting by way of regular rhythms, just kind of minimizes the need for any kind of industrial conflict, right? Because I'd say, hey, Michael, you and I chatted about this last week, right? Why do we have a misunderstanding? It's unlikely that we're going to have a public misunderstanding because we talked about it last quarter or last week. I've kept you informed. You've told me what you like. I've chatted with you about the things that, are not right from an alignment standpoint between us. There's lesser reason for there to be conflict.
Got it.
So regular touch points, regular rhythm, and keeping connected with your stakeholders.
I get it. Those are very strong messages that resonate very well with me. Vishal, thanks for being a guest on the show.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. All right, you've been watching CEO Money with Michael Yorba. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.